Kiedy usłyszałem, że kanał zostaje przekazany Polskiej Agencji Kosmicznej, to poczułem się, jakbym był co najmniej na pokładzie Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. Dzień dobry, witam w kolejnym dniu Studenckiej Konferencji Kosmicznej, pierwszej w historii organizowanej w Polsce. Oczywiście ten dzień rozpoczął się już kilka godzin temu. Dziękuję wszystkim, którzy od rana są z nami w tej sesji warsztatowej. Przed nami jeszcze kilka godzin bardzo ciekawych wykładów. Będą też sesje tematyczne i oczywiście wykłady, które poprowadzą zarówno nasi goście zagraniczni i polscy oraz partnerzy. I tu szybko chciałbym przypomnieć, że ta konferencja, która jest pierwszą, jak już wspomniałem, organizowana będzie w zamyśle co 2 lata. Patronat honorowy objął Minister Nauki i Edukacji, Ministerstwo Rozwoju, Pracy i Technologii. Partnerami są KP Labs, Digital Innovation Hub DICH for AI, Koło Naukowe SIMLE oraz Samorząd Studentów Politechniki Gdańskiej. Jesteśmy na Politechnice, a to z tego powodu, że wczoraj zostało ogłoszone otwarcie tutaj ESA Labu. 14 w Europie, pierwszego w Polsce. Raz jeszcze gratulujemy i mamy olbrzymią nadzieję, że powstanie tej instytucji właśnie tutaj w Gdańsku mocno napędzi rozwój branży kosmicznej w Polsce. To też było przyczynkiem do tego, żeby zorganizować konferencję, w której w tej chwili uczestniczymy. Zaczynamy od zagranicznego gościa, więc pozwolą Państwo, że znowu przełączymy się przynajmniej na chwilę na język angielski. Joining me today is Bertrand Goldman of the International Space University. Bertrand, are you with us?
Dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry, witam Cię bardzo serdecznie. Welcome to our conference. Bertrand, we'd like to tell a bit more about the International University. Is it possible to join the university from anywhere? Could any students study there? Tell us more about it.
Sure. So may I share the screen?
Yes, of course. Please do.
So let's see. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. So thanks a lot for having me. Thank you, Adam, and also Ginka for arranging this participation. I would have been quite happy to come and join you in Gdańsk, but yeah, because that wasn't possible. I've just been once in Poland, in Warsaw, and I really liked it a couple of years ago.
So you must visit us again.
Yes, certainly. That would be with great pleasure. I just would like to get started and walk you through the various activities and programs that are taking place at the International Space University. So, of course, I hope to attract you to one of our programs, but even if it's not possible, I think there's still interesting lessons to learn from what we do at ISU and how we teach and we do space education. Origins and goal of the university. So it may be the youngest university. It was founded about 40 years ago. And I think what really strikes me with the university is that it's an international effort. So it was started by 3 PhD students from MIT, but they really envisioned the university as an international effort, joining at the time Europeans, Soviet Union, Americans, and then growing over the whole world. So here on the right, you can see the parts of what we call the credo, so the motivation, the core of the International Space University. And you can see some important words like peaceful, prosperous, and boundless future through the study, exploration, and development of space for the benefit of all humanity. You know, it's about study, space, it's about exploration, development, or maybe exploitation of space, and important for the benefits of all. And if you go down, you can see, again, exploration, exploitation, and students and faculty from all backgrounds are welcome. So, of course, in particular from Poland. And we value the diversity of culture, philosophy, lifestyle, training, and opinion. So everybody is welcome at ISU, really. Later down in the credo, in this text, you can see preservation of the home planet. So, you know, this was written in the mid-90s. So about the time of the Kyoto Accord agreement, and this was already very important, and this is also at the core. I come back to that. Increase of knowledge, rational utilization of the vast resources. So, you know, again, exploitation, but rationally. So it started as an itinerary summer program in the late 1980s, and we established a campus mid-1990s. So there was an international competition. It didn't have to be in Strasbourg, where we are now. There were dozens of cities applied to host the campus of the International Space University, and there was a committee who studied the different applications. In the end, it nailed it down to Toronto and Strasbourg, and Strasbourg were eventually accepted and chosen because of the strong push from the city mayor at the time, and that really wanted to have this university installed in Strasbourg because she saw the value for the city and for the region. And yeah, the credo addresses the students and the stakeholders of the university. So, you possibly one day, as leaders of industry, academia, and government. So we intend to provide students the ways to contribute to space in various ways. I mean, whether it's as directors of some space agencies, as we have a few, including Polsa, but also it could be engineers and people with excellent skills that can contribute to space ecosystem. Just a few words on our past chancellors. So chancellors is a bit of an honorary position, the people who sign the diplomas, but also come to visit ASU and chat with the student and support us when we look for partners. So the first one was Arthur C. Clarke, the famous science-fi writer, who actually supported and pushed the three MIT students to create the university. Later was Jean-Jacques Dordain, the director of ESA at the time. Then Buzz Aldrin, don't have to introduce him. Until a couple of years ago, he was until the summer of 2019, and then he had to stay down for health reasons. But he came to Strasbourg in July 2019. And since he left, Pascale Ehrenfreund has been the chancellor, and she was at the time of her nomination the president of DLR, a remarkable person. She was and still is the president of the International Astronautical Federation. She's an astrophysicist from Austria, and really a very remarkable person to talk to. And so those people are accessible to us. They come to Strasbourg. I had Pascale Ehrenfreund give a talk to the students. That was in the middle of the pandemic in the spring, and she took 1 hour for time to talk to the students about JLR activities. So we have defined those three I's. So three key elements that defines the university. So the first one is I like international. So it was founded in the USA. It's based in France now, but really the board of trustees has international composition, and our stakeholders are international. So we have agreements with international partners, the space agencies, so Polsa, NASA, ESA, MES, UK Space Agency, the Italian Space Agency, CASC, which is a Chinese space agency. ISRO in India, we have agreement with all of those, with major companies. So those companies here, for instance, have a seat at the board of trustees. Small companies and startups, that's also very important for students, of course, when they start looking for a job or an internship. And we have agreements with a number of universities, and at least the ones we are closest connection. So Florida Tech, we have a program with them, University of South Wales as well, we have a program with them, University College London, IRS in Stuttgart, and etc. Also Tohoku in Japan. And we have also agreements and contacts with a number of international organizations, the United Nations Office for Autospare Affairs, COSPAR, which is located in Montpellier in France, the African Union in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. International in terms of staff. So my colleagues, for instance, are Chinese, Nigerian, Serbian, Polish, British, Irish, and American. And also our cohorts are international. So this is from last year. You can see the distribution of 42 students from the master, from Argentina to USA. And you've got, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but hopefully 2 people from Poland. And this is when you take over the decades of existence, different programs where alumni come from, so in terms of nationality. So you can see that we cover pretty much the whole world, with, unfortunately, Africa as a gray area in a couple of other countries. But basically, we have people coming from everywhere. The second I is interdisciplinary. So we have defined the curriculum and research activities along 7 disciplines. So space business and management. So here students learn how to conduct a space project, start a space project, and manage a project. We are also interested in innovation and what impact has innovation on the society. Human performance in space, that relates to medical aspects of the presence of humans in space. And it's just not just human and medical sciences, but sometimes before studying human, you start with worms or bacteria. So we also study this. Space policy and law. So space is international, and there is sometimes conflict or sometimes currents between the national laws and the international law. And there has been a development over the past 50 years, and it is very important to understand how things work. And of course, there are lots of uncertainty and lots of area for research, like in terms of exploitation, for instance, of in situ resources. Space physical sciences, this is astronomy, study of the cosmos, also of the solar system, exploration, and also studying events, solar meteorology, Carrington events, this kind of things. Space application, everything that you can do with space. So, looking down at Earth, communication, everything that is enabled for the rest of us thanks to space. Space engineering, this is everything that makes things possible, things happening. So, launch, orbital mechanics, thermal control, this kind of things. And space humanities is also very important for the curriculum and for ISU. So, how space affects societies and how society affects space. How do we define and observe the support that society gives to the space project and also space budget. And you can see here, this is from the cohort of this year for the master program again, where students come from. So they all come from the bachelor, sometimes they come with a master or PhD. They have typically some years of experience, and some of them also just are fresh from the bachelor. And if you take the backgrounds, you have a third, sometimes a half of engineers. You've got life scientists, so this year a quarter, sometimes it's less. People interested in physical sciences would be astronoms. You've got humanities also, so we have people studying, for instance, this year, an archaeologist from Strasbourg. And we have typically a couple of persons also studying law, architects, very, very diverse background. So, coming to ISU, that's also the possibility to meet very, very different people, also in terms of disciplines. And this last I is intercultural. So it's important, in our work or in our life, to put our preconceived ideas to test. We have grown up typically in one country, maybe in diverse families, but we inherited a number of ideas and conception, life view, and it's good to put those ideas to test because other people have different ideas and different approaches. And so we strive to have a large academic, cultural, and national diversity. And it's very important in space because most major space projects are international. And we know that Russians and Americans and Europeans do things differently. But in the end, sometimes they have to work together. And so we intend that the students at ISU learn to do that. They're not just on the job when really they have to deliver. But before that, during the studies, through in particular team project, I will come back to that. Learning to work with different people in terms of academic background and culture. For instance, we have those intercultural nights. So once a month, the students organize events. So typically they experience each other's food. So this time, a couple of years ago, food from Jordan, Mexico, and Serbia. And here you see the students or part of the students in the main hall of ISU with a model of telecommunication satellite on the roof. And unfortunately, this year, this is not taking place because of the pandemic, but I think it will resume as soon as possible. Okay, just a word about research. So education and research go together, that is clear. So although ISU started with an educational institution, in the past year and decade, we really strive to do research. And students perform research projects during the program, especially during the master when they have a bit more time. And so it's either with ISU or external supervision. So some recent project that we have conducted at ISU with partners, we built this habitat that you can see. It's a test for extreme environment habitat. This is an habitat that can be launched from an Ariane 5 launcher. It's you can squeeze it into the head of the launcher and then expand it when you are arrived. So whether it's in Rio Tinto in Spain here, or maybe in Mars someday. This is just a test, but an important project. We have built payloads for the International Space Station, plant growth experiment, methanogen growth. So this is the Cube Lab, 10 centimeter on the side that you can see in the middle, an interactive kaleidoscope where people from the ground, in public events, can send signal to the ISS and get back images from this little cube. And you can see all three of them when they were on board the ISS at the same time. Those three here. And now two of them have gone back home, for further study of the bacteria and the plant. But the kaleidoscope is still on board and starting its third year on board the ISS. We do astronomy, so now this is my field. We have my colleague Hugh Hill studying solar system and astrobiology. And I'm interested in nearby low mass stars and brown dwarf and using data mining methods in very large catalogs to do that. We do research in business, in particular the impact of innovation on society, and also development of space in the country that have not, that didn't have until recently a space ecosystem. So, for instance, in Africa or South America. Other research that we conduct at ISU, we have a PhD student working on in situ resource utilization. She does laser sintering of lunar regolith. So this is the powder that you can see here, actually using simulants. And the plan next year, she will do that in vacuum condition. So to match better the condition on the moon. The end goal of this is to be able to build buildings on the moon using regolith. Engineering, a couple of years ago, there was this experiment to develop single bubble sonoluminescence. So this is what happens when you have a liquid and you send sound waves into the liquid, and in certain conditions, there's a bubble of air that develops and sends light, emits light. And so this is well known in normal gravity, but we wanted to test this in microgravity. And this was done at the drop tower of Zaun in Bremen, in Germany. And you can see the experiment before it was launched or dropped, really, in the tower. And our next big project is to launch a CubeSat, probably in 2022. Also, pharmacology and human performance in space. This is my colleague Virginia Botrink. She has conducted recently a review of impact and countermeasures of microgravity on the astronauts in Orion crew vehicle. And also she has conducted a physiology study of female astronauts, important paper, when it comes to the risk of venous thromboembolism. And this is important for the female astronauts, but also for 3 to 4 billion people on Earth. So there are lessons to learn from what happens in microgravity. Coming to teaching, we have a number of programs, and one is a Master of Space Studies, I mentioned it before. This is where I teach mostly. It is a 12-month program, 9 months teaching and 3 to 6 months internship, plus an optional second year. It's very intense. It's pretty much a 2-year program packed in 12 months. It's very intense. We have taught module with introduction to all the 7 disciplines and deepening of those disciplines, and also a number of electives that the students can choose. And we have practical modules, the individual project where students conduct a research project with the faculty, a team project, come back to that later, and also the internship. We organize a number of professional visits, again this year. This is not yet happening, hopefully soon, where we visit, for instance, Airbus in Friedrichshafen in Germany, SES, a communication company in Luxembourg, DLR, visit ESA in Darmstadt, colleagues from the University of Stuttgart, and also local labs from the University of Strasbourg. We have workshops and various activities. And what is remarkable at ISU, I believe, is there's a strong connection between student and teacher. So we have about 40 students every year. We have 9-10 professors, and we have a very strong band with the student, and we really take time to supervise and teach and interact with the students. And also the bonding between students and students is very much valued. And that happens through the team exercise, team projects, assignments, and also the tutorial nights I mentioned. The space study program is a shorter program. So one is 9 weeks long. It's very intense. People tend to characterize it as a life-changing experience. It's a typical word that you listen. It's very emotional. It takes place June to August, normally. And it has different locations worldwide. So this year it took place online for obvious reasons, and we called it Interactive Space Program. It was just 5 weeks. And you can see where it took place in the past 30 years or more. In North America, Europe, Asia, and in the South, unfortunately, just a couple of times. But we have also now a South Hemisphere space study program that's in collaboration with the University of South Australia on the Adelaide campus. It takes place over 5 weeks. And this year, again, it is online, and actually it is possible to follow it and then participate from Europe. And the time zone are arranged so that it should be possible. And executive space courses. This is a 1-week course for professionals and people who are already advancing their careers in different locations again in the world. Equipment, so that it's available for research and for teaching. We have this vacuum chamber, so we will use it to perform this regolith centering experiment. It's basically 3D printing of regolith. We have a 2.5, 21 centimeter radio antenna. So on this picture, you can see it here. Actually, right now it is dismounted, but it will put back on place quickly. We have a 10, 12 gigahertz antennas. This is one of those. So that allows us to study, to measure the moon and sun temperature, for instance. We have a satellite tracking station. Those are those racks here. So it allows to get signal and determine the position of satellites. We have a Sentinel rover with a stereoscopic vision, so given to us by NASA, and a student of mine refurbished it last year. Very, very nice work. We have a ready shock tube, so that's an instrument that allows you to study shockwave, generate and study shockwave. The big space when we can build 3D prints some parts where the cube labs have been built. And also a library that is entirely dedicated to space, something quite unique, very nice space. And it holds 10,000 books on space, and also a lot of online resources. And a professional librarian who is available for the students, in particular to support them in the team project. So team projects is something very important for ISU. It's really the core of the teaching. And the intention is to provide experience to the students with research, project management, organization, communication, again, in an interdisciplinary and international context. So the team is pretty free to choose, its research directions and bring the topic where it seems it's more interesting. Students have the ability to interact with world experts from a network. Typically, we have 2-4 projects proposed each year, so the student can choose. And just to give you some examples, we have Artemis, so that was a project to survey the moon, dedicated Artemis satellite, so that would have been a project of the Americans and the Soviet Union. Yes, Soviet Union, because actually that was a project that was proposed in 1989 in Strasbourg. So you see that's a long story with this name. Another project on active debris removal. It's a major issue for space industry, of course. A project on space for Africa. This was a study of what would be a constellation of small sats to provide internet access to remote areas and also perform environmental monitoring, 2013, so be long before Starlink launches. Another project on water management. So all those projects are developed over 5 months within the master program at a level of 30% of the time, and 20 students. So that's the opportunity to go very deep in a study. And you can find those reports actually in an executive summary on a website. Popularization is important for us. This is part of the humanities discipline. So students contribute to the open day, for instance. So this is a picture here. Sometimes we have individual projects where the student can study, how to propose, how to expose to the public a concept, a project. Sometimes it's on voluntary basis. Students have the opportunity to welcome classes from high school. So for instance, last year I had arranged a visit of a class from Poland who would have gone to the European Parliament in Strasbourg and then to ISU, and that was in March and got cancelled. But I hope it will be possible soon. And we also were the organizer of a competition for high school students to design a colonization for Mars, and this is part of an international competition. We've done that last year. Sustainability is important for us. The context. Space-based observation is crucial to quantify the impact. A majority of the parameters that define the Earth's climate are actually only accessible from space. So this is crucial. And the space industry, as every other industry, has a duty to decrease its carbon emission by 50% in 10 years and then to zero in 30 years. This is, of course, very challenging. And this is true for the space industry. This is also true for any academic institution, including ISU. And so we have developed a working group that has worked on a sustainability policy that will soon be approved by the president and will apply to all ISU activities. And this working group is composed of staff and students. And this year we have some teaching related to this team project on plastic in the ocean, which I am leading or supervising. And we have also, I will propose an elective on space for a sustainable Earth, if the students are interested. Inclusiveness is important for us. I mentioned interculturality, internationality, and ISU wants to support minorities in science and technology, and also the space ecosystem, for which there is still a lot of work to do. We have financial support, for instance, for minority, and we also local chapter of Women in Aerospace. We also have an entrepreneurship program,
Bertrand,
incubator.
Bertrand,
Yes,
I need to interrupt because our time is actually up. I don't know how many slides do you have left, because if there are many of them, we can always, if you agree, share the presentation via Pulsar.
I'd be happy to do that, yeah. So
okay.
If I have another minute, maybe, or?
So how many slides do you have left?
A couple.
Okay, so since I'm sorry, but since the time is already up, I would like to only ask you one question before we disconnect. Is there any application process going on due to the pandemic and the whole situation?
Yeah, the pandemic does not affect application process too much. Deadlines, which you can see here for the master program, for the different programs are the same. I mean, of course, now we are online like all French universities, and we will come back as soon as possible on site, so maybe in January or February. And we have some programs, like the next SHSSP will be online, next SSP in June in Granada normally, maybe online, we will see. But otherwise, the application process is the same. And I'd like to stress that as for the Polish students, there is a scholarship available.
Great. That's great news. We're really happy to have had you here. Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry for the time constraints, but we have to let the next panel to begin. So Bertrand Goldman from International Space University was our guest. Bertrand, we will share your presentation if it's okay with you.
Yeah, definitely. I will send it to you.
Thank you very much and have a good day.
Dziękuję.
Dziękujemy. Merci. To tyle, jeżeli chodzi o informacje na razie o Międzynarodowym Uniwersytecie Kosmicznym International Space University. Przypominam, prezentacja będzie udostępniona na profilu i stronie Polsy. Bardzo serdecznie dziękujemy Bertrandowi. A teraz rozstajemy się na chwilę. Znaczy rozstajemy się w tym miejscu, dlatego że automatycznie wszystkich Państwa zapraszamy na strony, których linki znaleźć można na profilu facebookowym Polskiej Agencji Kosmicznej. Zaczynamy dwie równoległe sesje. Jedna z nich poświęcona jest przyszłościowym koncepcjom, druga badaniu przestrzeni. Tutaj spotkamy się znowu o godzinie 13:05, jeżeli oczywiście nic się znacząco nie opóźni i wtedy zaprosimy Państwa na 3 wykłady. Pierwszy z nich o morskim zastosowaniu teledetekcji. O tym opowie dr Katarzyna Bratkę. Następnie wystąpi przedstawiciel jednego z naszych partnerów, firmy KP Labs, dr Marek Krawczyk, który opowie m.in. o CubeSatach, a na koniec profesor Marek Konacki, który opowie nam o bezpieczeństwie na orbicie. Teraz zapraszam na sesję. Przypominam, linki na profilu facebookowym Polskiej Agencji Kosmicznej. Tu spotykamy się około godziny 13:05, a dokładnie kiedy to będzie zaraz po tym, jak skończą się 2 sesje, na które zapraszam już teraz. Potrzebujemy dosłownie 2 minut przerwy technicznej, aby móc zorganizować tę sesję. Zapraszam i do zobaczenia za chwilę.